Open is the only chance that we have to make knowledge development and knowledge spreading sustainable and effective. Nowadays, we need this more than anything else, both in research and also in education. In this perspective, it is fundamental that educational institutions play their role along with national and international institutions and bodies. This is why, with great pleasure, I wish all of you a good job and a great success with this conference, with open education and with its contributions for the future of our young people and all of us. Thank you very much again, and enjoy the conference.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Milano. I'm Paul Stacey, the Executive Director of the Open Education Consortium, and it's really our delight to be co-hosting with Politecnico di Milano this event, which is a global convening of open educators from around the world. And as you've seen on the slides projected on the big screen, this event really is a huge team effort involving a lot of people, and I wanted to put up on the screen the faces of the people that are involved in preparing and running an event like this, and just give a shout out and some thanks to everyone from the conference chairs to the program chair, our amazing program chair. The team here at Politecnico di Milano has been just fantastic to work with, and they've been really gracious and generous with working with us. And also my whole team, the Open Education Consortium staff are here, and they too are just hugely devoted to this event and have put in countless hours of effort in supporting it. And I also think that you should note that there are peer reviewers, we have an open journal publisher and an editor who's involved, there are sponsors, and for the first year we tried raising some funds from donors. And so thank you, all of you who have donated funds, and as you probably have seen on the slide about that, your donations have helped us support 14 other people coming to this event. And of course, all of you who are willingly sharing and presenting your work with colleagues from around the world. I actually am pleased this year at the diversity of sessions. We have over people presenting from over 40 different countries. I'm also thrilled this year at the more interactive format for this event, so you'll find that this event is not just plenary sessions like this and presentations, but we have action labs and world cafes happening. I'm also really thrilled that the conference is taking place on a campus in the middle of students going to class, so you'll see students intermixing with us as we go about this event, and I think that's really helpful for us to keep our focus on who open education is. The first keynote, so thank you very much. And there are other students that some of you have brought with you as buddies, because we enabled a kind of bring a student process as part of the registration for this event. So fantastic to have so many students involved. I also want to mention that we're experimenting a little bit with space at this event too. So some of the activities like World Cafes and Action Labs are going to take place actually in big open corridors. So we're really trying to encourage some experimentation, some dialogue, and some co-construction of the future of open education. Christy's going to talk about the program for today, but I just want to highlight a couple of things. One is, at the end of today, there's a session on the award winners. As you probably all know, the Open Education Consortia gives out awards every year for people who are doing exceptional work in open education, and many of the award winners are actually here. And so I really want to invite you to come and acknowledge their amazing work. And all of the ones that are here are also giving lightning talks. So I encourage you to check those out. And then following that, there will be an opening reception at La Triennale. So please come to that. And then just over the next 3 days, I hope that you'll join me in making this an event where we have kind of open hearts and open minds that come together for creating open education for an open future, and have fun and be kind.
Yes. Okay. Got to just stay there. Okay. Buongiorno. Good. A warm welcome from me too. We live in very challenging times, and I don't think that's just politically. But with challenges come opportunities. And I think the open education community is embracing these opportunities. And that's why we are here. Our conference theme is Open Education for an Open Future. Thank you for embracing it all. Thank you for being here, sharing your work so openly with everybody, with the wider communities. As you can see on the slide, we have received many contributions and have 144 sessions with a variety of formats, as Paul already mentioned. We would like to thank all the people who have been involved with reviewing and organizing everything here at Polimi as well, the Open Education Conference. And I wouldn't be here if I didn't have Paula's kind invitations. So we'll have a range of formats, as Paul already mentioned. And please remember, during lunchtime, there are poster presentations happening today, tomorrow, and on Thursday. And also during lunch, there's an opportunity to meet the penguin. This is the GoGN penguin, and we have Rob Farrow. Rob is in the room. This is a wonderful community, a very supportive global community for doctoral students in open education. So if you would like to find out more, or are one of the PhD students at the moment, or alumni, please come and join us. You will see the penguin and Rob. And I will be around as well, because I'm one of the alumni. So we would also like to thank all the chairs, and we had 24 plus 3 actually chairs who volunteered. And there's a warning that we in the action labs today don't actually have any chairs, but we hope you will manage. Will you? Yes? Where's Igor? He's not here. Ah, there he is. Yes, you worried, Igor, but I'm sure we will be okay. So just keep to the time. We have a full program today, and throughout the keynotes you have seen already. And today's program is with Dr. Brigitta Blassi. We'll start in a bit from the National Agency for Evaluation of the University and Research Systems. We'll have our very own Paola here with her lovely students talking about their work and their stories in open education, which is wonderful. We have loads of presentations, enlightening talks and action labs, like we said. And when we were actually starting to put some first ideas together for the program, we wanted to be a bit radical and get rid of presentations altogether, but we didn't do that in the end. But it's good to see that we have a range of talks and contributions. So, grazie mille to all of you for sharing your work with the wider community, for being here, for traveling to Milan and being with us all. Thank you to all the reviewers, the Open Education Consortium for giving us this opportunity, for all the session chairs, the sponsors, of course, the team at Polimi, all the students, and Paola. Like I said, I wouldn't be here without her. She actually refused to dance when we were in South Africa. And now here I am. When she asked me, are you going to chair that conference? I said, actually, yes. So I'm just going to finish with something I read very recently. And that's from a book about picture books. You might think, what has that to do with open education? But the inspiration often comes from very diverse places. Wonder happens automatically when you try something new. Visit a just-opened museum. Walk through an unfamiliar neighborhood. Try a foreign food. Be open to everything around you. Enjoy the conference. Susanna Sankaskani is going to introduce our keynotes. Thank you.
So, hi everybody. Please take just a second for consider yourself very, very lucky. You have done it? Good. Because this is the first sunny day we had in the last month, so we have a sunny day for the beginning of this conference. It's a great thing for us. Very well. So first, thank you very much to all the board of directors of Open Education Consortium and to Christine Ranzi. We have learned a lot by interacting with you in organizing this conference, and we are very, very, very happy to host it for the first time in Italy. I am the managing director of METID, that's the teaching learning task force of Politecnico di Milano. So it's a great opportunity for us to know all of you and to have good opportunities for share and discuss. So I have the honor to introduce our first keynote. Why we have invited Dr. Brigida Blasi as a first keynote? Because open education is a very strategic aspect, not just for education itself, but in general, for the impact of our university to our societies. We strongly believe that open education is a key strategy for foster the integration between universities and our social and economics context. That's why we have invited Dr. Brigida Blasi, that's in charge about the evaluation of the third mission, the so-called third mission. You know, the first mission is education, the second mission is research, the third mission is the relationship with the global society of the university. And as you know, the institutions that are in charge of evaluating the educational system and universities in particular have the great power and also the great responsibility to orient the policies and the actions of universities. So they are a very relevant actor. I am very happy to leave the floor to Brigida Blasi, please.
I think it's okay. Maybe there's... Okay. So, good morning to everyone, and I am Brigida Blasi. Thanks, Professor Sancassani, for your brilliant introduction. And I am very pleased to be here, and it's an honor for me to be in such a prestigious forum about open education. So really, thank you to Professor Sancassani, to METID, and also to Politecnico di Milano. Where do I come from? Firstly, apart from this first presentation by Professor Sancassani, I would like to tell you a few words on my institution. We are in charge of the evaluation of universities and research institutes in Italy, and the regulatory framework that instituted the agency asked us to evaluate the quality of processes, results, and products of management, teaching, research, including technology transfer. So this is the departure point for our work. So in the agency mission, all the elements of the university, of the academic world are there. We have research evaluation side by side with teaching evaluation, and also third mission evaluation, and the administration, the management evaluation. But still, even if we are side by side this different kind of assessment, it is important to say that the work on third mission was really a big challenge for us. the first challenge was how to define how the university can impact on the world. I don't love very much the word to impact because it seems something a bit violent. But anyway, we really believe that the university can create benefits for the whole society. So let's call them impact. But still, it's a challenge to define it, but also you can imagine to measure it and to evaluate it. I won't go through all the path that has brought us to today and to the present framework of evaluation of third mission. Here you have this slide and you can keep it in memory, and in any case we can keep in touch also in the future. But the most important thing for me to say today in this venue is that I would like to share some brief ideas, some opening ideas about the relationship between university and society, and the different models of innovation, and the emerging idea of open science that is maybe the sister of open education. Let's start from the model of innovation. In 1995, Henry Radtke, one of the most famous scholars in innovation studies, theorized the presence of triple helix. That is to say that academia, together with industry and government, created together by their interaction what we call innovation. So there was a circulation flow of things, of people and information and products, technologies, that went around academia, government, and industry. And the role of the academia was to train human resources and to produce scientific knowledge and develop technologies for application, basically, and to make them available to society. So society was the main target, and it was quite passive in this process. Together with this idea of triple helix, also the idea of mode 2 of science, of knowledge production, arise. And the idea is that there's no longer a notion of science that is a fundamental research organized into disciplines, but rather multidisciplinary teams that work together to solve specific real-world problems. This is undoubtedly a progress in this sense, but still the model is very linear in the sense that universities produce basic research, curiosity-driven research, so completely detached from the real world, and there are subjects that are in charge of the application. So at the border, at the boundary of the universities, what Gibbons called university-related institutions, for example, technology transfer offices or science incubators. And at the end of the process, there was the firm that bought the product, the technology, and used it and applied to what we call the real world. So strict boundaries and linearity. But that model was a huge success. Henry Radtke is one of the most important reference for those who study innovation. Recently, the model has been strongly revised. For example, just to give you a hint on this, we have a study of 2009 by Karayanis and Campbell that is on quadruple helix and mode 3 of science. Here, some new elements are added, and also because an idea of media-based democracy emerges. So the helix becomes from triple to quadruple. The mode, from mode 2, it becomes, we enter in mode 3 of science. What does it mean? a multi-layered, multimodal, multinodal, and multilateral system where complex network configurations are there. So the linearity of the first models give the way to more complex models that are no longer linear and implies more than three helices, and what just Henry Hetzkovits called the N-nupel of helices. As you can see, in 2012, the helix becomes even quintuple. So the basic idea is that there are integrating and differentiating forces that interact together in the scientific world. What about academia? What about the role that university has in society? What is the relationship that this social actor has with the rest of society? In the Mode 2 paradigm, the university was seen as articulated in three basic missions: teaching on one side, research on the other side. The management of the university was at the very core of the institution, and then you have third mission activities, something more peripheral, with a strong boundary between in relation to the other missions, and with a strong reference with the outside world, something that were more dealt with external actors. But as Goddard, in this beautiful book, The Civic University, teaches us, a set of drivers are paving the way to a completely new model of universities. We are in challenging times, and we have just told it. So the digital transformation, globalization, climate change, political devolution, the aging of the population and other social factors, the emerging values, different values that are emerging, such as individualism, are completely transforming the role of the university in the present world. And the university, the missions of the university become functions of the university that are completely integrated among them. So teaching and research, together with engagement, no longer a third mission, an alter mission, but rather something very embedded in the university world, and some intersection between the functions allow the university to generate something new in the world, to really impact on it, to transform it, to respond to societal challenges. And civil society is no longer a passive subject, but really asks something to the university in the present world. And as you can see, it is from the below part, the engagement, it is from the society that some inputs go to teaching and research. You can see in the spheres that cross the soft boundary of the new civic university. This is the precondition for democracy, according to Greg Calhoun, Thesis 11. So what about a third mission? In the very first models, it was another pillar. And it was based on a one-way process of transfer of knowledge, of technology, from the university to society. Then the idea evolved in something like an exchange, so a two-way process. And now the present debate is more focused on co-production and co-creation. This is a picture that I really appreciated from Coventry University that is focused on the case of the healthcare research. Here you can see that there's no longer space for linearity. Interactions are everywhere. and policies, government, what Radtke called government, as well as the private sector commissioning, as well as the patients that have to benefit from cures, from therapies, and their needs that become the starting point of the research design. So all of this creates a real social impact that is clearly difficult to be measured. A last trend of change I would like to analyze with you briefly today, the trend of open science. A strong debate also on this topic, no judgment about this, but for example, PLOS make this kind of modelization. Horizon 2020 gives us this word cloud about words open science. This is a representation of the different stages where open can enter the research life cycle. As you can see, as your conference bags say today, we never close. University is open 24/7. So open science can be part of the concept at the early stage of idea and proposal, can be among the toolkit of the scientists with open notebook, open data, open source, open codes, can be the publication channel based on openness with green and gold open access. And also the review process can be characterized by openness. And then also education and training can be based, as you teach me, on openness with open education resources. And also engagement, what we call engagement, it can be really something open to citizen if we think about citizen sciences experiences, for example. So let me wrap it up very briefly. Let me be back to my planet. In the huge galaxy of science and education, what ANVOR is trying to do in those years is, as I told you, first of all, to define what third mission is. And the first thing we have learned is that third mission is much more than technology transfer, and that probably the third mission is not a third one. From the very beginning, we intended it as the openness of the university towards the socioeconomic context through the valorization and transfer of knowledge. And this is something not only related to technology, but that also encompasses social and cultural benefits, what we call the production of public goods. How to measure, how to define it for us is the very big challenge. We have tried to do it in different experiences, and I will give you some hints about it. In the first research assessment exercise, we evaluated third mission just basing on simple metrics based on countings. So number of spin-off companies, for example, so the classical technological transfer metrics. But still there we introduced cultural activities indicators and also public engagement indicators to enrich the vision and the photography of the university. Recently, in the last years especially, we are trying to broaden furtherly this concept also to include something that really allow us to capture what kind of dialogue the university has with the society around. And for example, we have introduced patient empowerment initiatives in healthcare research and open education initiatives, for example, massive open online courses, and also citizen science initiatives. Just to tell you that we are doing few steps forward in this direction. Here's some further readings, but really thank you for this occasion to share with you this road of ours. And I really hope that the progress in this direction of knowledge transfer, but especially knowledge mobilization, will improve also thanks to your inputs. And enjoy this prestigious conference and good work. Thank you.
So great to start with this conference with the idea that open education is a public good. So we have this responsibility of impacting or fertilizing society. That is a great opportunity, but also a great responsibility. And now we have the first keynote of this conference that is very, very relevant for us, because we have always to remember that open education, it's not a purpose itself. Because sometimes we are so happy to work about open education that we forget that it's not a purpose. It's a mean, it's a strategy, it's a tool for providing a better and wider education for everybody. So it's very, very important that we keep in mind the people about which we have to be always focused on, that are our students. So now I am really more than happy to leave the floor to Paola Corti from Metadata, Learning Innovation, great co-chair of the organization committee of this conference. I will never thank you enough for the huge job you have done for this conference. And to our students, Trudi Radtke from the College of the Canyons, Robert Queckenberg from Ruhr Universität Bochum, and Giulia Boggiali, Politecnico di Milano. Thank you very much.
Hi everyone, welcome. So happy to see you all together here. Let me open our presentation. And we will start actually with a video.
Yes, I'm familiar with that and with some Wikipedia-related projects.
Our first experience was with the actual creation of open educational resources for a program on tourism and hospitality.
Yes, I have heard of it. I heard about it when I started working at the Writing Center here at the university.
Yes, I have heard of open education when I started working at the Academic Literacies Writing Center at Nelson Mandela University.
Well, actually, I think the key word is interaction, because with group works and also group work during the reviewing process, students can increase their awareness of their own skills.
I would like it to be an easily available to everyone, especially within the university context.
Open education aims to improve access to education. If people in South Africa had access to education and to learning materials, it would create such a reality where education is accessed by everyone and anyone who wants it.
And also we'll be more able to create our own content and add to the knowledge base, instead of thinking that only one day when we graduate to have a professional career will we be able to do that.
And open educational resources is a really spectacular thing, and it gives teachers the flexibility of actually creating content which is, fully furnished for themselves, if you will. I love you guys. You guys have a blast in the conference. You guys are doing, all of you guys here, all of you guys that are watching this, I love you with all my heart, because you guys are actually helping us, helping people like me. Bye. Good night.
So, we've been blessed to have a good number of students who wanted to share with us their ideas about open education, and we are here with the same aim today. I'm so happy, you can't imagine how happy I am to have students on the stage together with me, and thank you in advance for the great job we did together and for this keynote together. So, we wanted to start this conference with students on the stage because they are our main focus. I think all of us share this as the main focus. Is it too close, maybe? That's it. I'm not used to microphones. And let's start with who we are. I am Paola Corti. I work at METID, which is the Learning Innovation Unit here at Politecnico di Milano. And I am the co-chair of this conference.
Hi everyone, I'm Trudi Radtke. I work as an open educational resource specialist at College of the Canyons as a OER consultant and advocate to California State Universities, and I'm currently pursuing a master's in history at Cal State University Northridge.
I'm Guilia Boggiali. I'm a computer engineering student here at Politecnico, and I'm also a member and currently vice president of POL, which is Politecnico Open Unix Labs.
And I'm Robert Queckenberg. I study comparative literature at the Ruhr-Universität in Bochum, Germany. And there, with other students, I initiated the Hermione project, in which students become teachers and teach their fellow students.
So, as you can easily imagine, we are here providing different perspectives on open education. And of course, we will start from their experiences in open education, and we are going to go through some of the challenges they have been encountering and they are encountering nowadays, actually. And is it not working? We can manage it from here.
It's not quite
Don't worry.
working.
Let's go through this by hand. Don't worry. And what we are going to share then is, which is the kind of university support they already received and which our university are providing now. And in the end, we are coming to their vision about open education and the vision that we are willing to share with you. And actually, we are going to involve you in that because you've been given a small paper note, and we are willing to ask you if you want to write down during the keynote, which is your vision about the future of open education. And in the end of the keynote, we would like to collect them. So feel free to write it, change it, correct it as far as you want, and then please share it with us in the end, okay? What else? Let's start, I would say. Let's start with the experiences. Which are your experiences in open education?
Well, for me, first of all, I'm a member of POL, as I said. We are a student club here in Politecnico, and our main focus is on free software, and I mean free as in freedom, not as in free beer. Free software, in order to qualify as that, needs to grant its user 4 main liberties, which are the freedom to use the software as they want, to study how the software works, to modify it to suit their own needs, and to share it with whoever they want. We organize courses about free software and open technologies. Our courses are open to everyone. They're mainly meant for students, other students of Politecnico, but we also have some older people from outside of Politecnico who come to follow our lessons or who follow our YouTube channel. In fact, we try to share all of the material we produce. All of the slides are licensed with a CC license, and they're on our website, and we also record videos of our lessons, and they're on YouTube. Which is not an open platform, but it's the most used one, fortunately. On a more personal note, I'm also a student And throughout my university career, I've always used the materials shared by other people who are either students or professors. And that material was so thorough and of such good quality that I never really needed to buy a book. One thing I noticed is that not much of that material had a license, and I'm afraid it might be because people are not even aware of the existence of licenses.
My first experience in open actually occurred in my first year as an undergraduate. I went to purchase my university textbooks, and it came out to about $700, which is around 630 euro, I believe. I was the first in my immediate family to attend college, and I come from a lower socioeconomic background, so that was an incredibly large burden for my family that we had not been expecting. I also needed new glasses because my prescription was up. So I had to pick between textbooks and glasses. And I chose glasses because that seemed like the more immediate need. I had nothing really to supplement my learning outside of the classroom, so I would just go online and look for things. And I didn't know it at the time, but the only stuff that I was actually able to download for free, because I was able to find a few things, was OER resources. And I didn't know that that's what they were, but now, fast forward, that was my first experience. And now I have the privilege of being an OER and ZTC specialist at College of the Canyons. I've assisted in the creation of about 80 open textbooks, all under CC BY license. I've also am a co-lead for the OER Student Advocacy Group, a group in California that tries to advocate for open on California campuses. And I also work as a private consultant to help other universities make their own open textbooks in California and open textbook pathways.
When I hear, Trudi, when I hear you talk about this experience of having to buy books on this scale, I'm just so happy to live in Germany and have the benefits of the very free German education system in comparison. But I think it's also just a really great example of how, like, from a need, you can come up with a great idea and like an urge to want to change something. And our project is, of course, like not so much related to sharing materials and textbooks, and also have nothing to do really with free software. But there was a need nonetheless, and I can share a little story like yours. So this goes back to, I was living with one of the girls I started the project with, we were at the time living together. And we often had this conversation that when, we've just written a paper and we thought it was really good. And so we're quite happy about what we did there. And we felt it was valuable, but we didn't know how to share it with anybody. It was just the professor who had to correct it. And maybe like a friend who read it to check it for errors, and those were the only people who ever got to see this. And we thought, like, there's something that we want to change about this, and we want to make student research more visible. And so this was the need that we discovered and what we wanted to do with our project. And what we do is basically we give students. I'm from the literature department, so it's students from a number of philological subjects that get to present their research. So it's pre-selected, it's really good stuff, like good bachelor theses and so on, or master theses, or also like smaller projects that have like outstanding research quality, and they get to present it to other students. So in this way we make their work more transparent. And what we also do is we don't stop with the finished product, because in a way we think very often education is also not open or not transparent in a way that when teachers present their work, they only present the finished product, but you never get to find out, like, how did you even get there? And so what we do is all our students that teach in this class, they get to actually first work on reflecting themselves on how did they even get there again, and then they also present this to the other students. So they serve as role models and encourage these other students to maybe follow in their footsteps and learn from their experiences. And of course, because we've done this project now 3 times, there's also another level at which sharing comes in, and this is educational practices. So we started this as students. We had no idea about what we were doing there at the beginning. But now, of course, we've learned from our own experiences, and we're trying to develop this course further and further, and so we've started sharing at this level also. When it comes to the open educational resources, I think it would be just a great puzzle to add in there as well. But I mean, you mentioned the challenges. One challenge that we found, especially as students trying to find our way in this, is that you need to know quite a lot of things, or at least it feels that way, to get started with sharing stuff online. And we didn't feel prepared to do this at the beginning. So we want to do this in the future, but so far it's been like a little bit of a challenge for us to incorporate this in our concept.
Well, let's talk about the challenges in sharing then. In my experience, the main challenge I've encountered is that people don't provide source code, which could be, for example, I've found some really good notes, but only the PDF version, and if there was a mistake or I wanted to correct or something that I wanted to improve, I was unable to do that. I think in order to be really open, you need to not only provide the editable version of your work, but also all of the tools that another person is going to need to improve and continue working on that. Another issue, I believe, is that without a proper CC license, it's impossible to give credit to each of the authors who contributed to the work. And since we are sharing our material for free, this credit is kind of the only form of payment that we get. So I think we need to use a CC license for that. Another issue, when I was looking for material to study for my exams, for example, that I found was that material is extremely sparse and it's published on very many different platforms, which makes it a lot harder to find. One thing that I think would help to solve this problem is to have a centralized platform, maybe sponsored by a university. Like each university could have their own website where students and professors can share their material, and they are, of course, strongly encouraged to use an open license. What about you, Robert? Did you encounter any other challenges?
Yeah, first of all, I think those are so important points that you mentioned, like having an accessible platform would just be fantastic. And I think there's maybe one other challenge, or one reason why we found it so challenging in our situation to use this more, and that was that we didn't design our project in a way with this in mind. And when you want to do it retrospectively, it's so much harder because also in our case, it's not just one teacher, it's this group of students. So we'd have to run after everybody and get their consent, and also just rearranging the material afterwards, in a way that it's openly shareable, is just really hard. So I think one takeaway from this is that you really need to make sure that you design it for sharing from the beginning, and that's one thing that we want to do in the future. And this is, I think, something that also applies to whichever other person you want to encourage to participate in this movement. You gotta reach them at a point where they can still design whatever they have planned in this way.
Well, yes, I agree. Instilling an open culture at the beginning of a work would save us a lot of time after the work is done. But Paola, you and I are both at home here at Politecnico. What is it we do here to help solve these challenges?
Well, actually here I talk about what the work we do in METID, which is a bottom-up work, of course. What we do around licenses, first of all, is try to support teaching staff in order to have the basic skills they need and to work in advance. So if they start thinking about licenses before they start their work, then they will be able to share what they produce accordingly. Otherwise, it's quite difficult to go back and catch up with the work already done and all the permission required. Sometimes it works. Actually, one of our last experiences since we produce MOOCs, and our MOOCs are really open MOOCs, so CC licensed MOOCs. One of the last MOOCs we published is about the relationship between higher education and sustainable development goals. And actually we started with a more restricted license, but then we came up discovering that most of the professors involved, and there are more than 30 professors involved, chose by themselves the CC BY license. Then we contacted each one of the others and asked them for their permission to change their license, and they all agreed. So we have our first CC BY, completely CC BY MOOC now online. So MOOCs are one of the other activities that we try to do together with professors, because mainly we work with them. And sometimes we succeed in adding also some of the works done by students. For example, in this MOOC we have also a video completely designed by students, which is nice for us. And other things that we try to do together with the teaching staff, during workshops we have specific lessons for them in which we work together around the licensing. And they work actually in order to choose their license, understand what does it mean to remix different OERs together. And what we encourage them to do, and sometimes this is already happening, is of course to reuse other professors' materials. And it works pretty well when we succeed in doing this. Other things that we try to do at present time in order to support professors in their day-by-day work is to encourage them to open up their practices, not only with open educational resources, but also sharing their practices in themselves, so the design of their lessons. So also the process, Robert, not only the final result. And sometimes it works. It's a step-by-step activity. The last thing that we try to do, I'm very happy about it, is the translation of the Creative Commons certificate for educators and librarians in Italian, because language sometimes is still a barrier, and we don't want that. So having the Italian version could support many of our professors at national level to get in touch more closely to the licensing system, which is not so easy for everyone, you know. Even if the materials are very simple, very user-friendly, sometimes people are frightened by facing legal issues. And even if we are not a legal team at all, we can try to support them at first. So that's what we are trying to do. What we want to do in the future, since we are reaching that point, is to have a larger involvement by students, because professors have a limited amount of time. So we certainly understand when they have problems in knowing better how to deal with licenses, okay? It's perfectly understandable. But if the network becomes larger and larger, and why not to involve students in this network? The work with licenses, which is very time-consuming at first, could be managed with many people on board. And I really believe that students could give a great deal of effort in this, and they could be really the game changer. So that's why I'm willing to go ahead with this.
Awesome. It's really encouraging to hear all of the work, as I've been here, that's going on at Politecnico to bring students into the open creation process. That's something we try to do a lot at College of the Canyons, where I work with OER. We actually recently hired 2 graphic design students from College of the Canyons to help us design kind of an OER textbook. We call it style guide, but it could also be considered kind of a workflow, a how to create an OER text from scratch, basically. If you were someone who wanted to get into open content creation, but perhaps you didn't know where to start, we had 2 graphic designers just help us create an entire branding initiative for our campus for OER, help us market OER, created banners, merchandise, and it was amazing because the work that they produced is gorgeous, and they agreed to put it all in a CC BY license. And then they agreed to compile it all into a document that we're going to share on our website soon, and it's a packet. So it's not just information on how to create content or a textbook. It's all of the materials you would literally need to do it. Like textbook graphics, they've made them, they've put them in that packet. All of the banners, everything, all their designs. And they were so excited about it. They were so excited, they wanted to do it. It was quite brilliant, and a privilege to work with them. We also are currently working with a former COC student who is blind. Her name is Lauren Rome, and she's helping us create an accessibility guide for textbooks. It's very important to us at College of the Canyons that the visually impaired have access to our books in a way that is equitable and real. And we have someone helping us create an accessibility guide, and we have the person who should be helping us create it. And that's been really impactful for me and our whole team. And these are students, and they're excited, and they're willing to do it. We also have professors who we're encouraging to bring students into the process. So we have a geometry professor who's actually assigning questions for credit, homework questions, and then his students are literally writing the homework section of his textbook. And they're vetting the problems, and they're doing all the math work, and they're showing the work, and we're just going to lift that and put that right in the textbook. We also have a geography professor who takes his students on field trips every year, and they take pictures of California geography for our upcoming California geography textbook. So these students, what we're trying to do is we're trying to create incentive and buy-in. We feel that if they see themselves reflected in the materials they're using, they will care about the materials they're using. And we think that that's really powerful. We're also working on another small change that I've noticed that's just been really impactful is we're actually going into our textbooks and we're changing some of the names of the content to reflect the names of our current student demographic. And the reason I think that's so powerful is because it's a very simple thing to do, but it's actually only something you can do with Open. You can't call a publisher, email a publisher and say, these names, they don't really reflect my students. Can we change this work problem to use names that reflect my students? But with Open, you can make that change. And it only takes a couple of seconds, really. But it's so impactful. There's a famous American educator, Marina Elderman, who said that you can't be what you can't see. So when we bring our students into the creation process, when we bring their names into the textbooks, there's incentive, and there's buy-in, and there's care. And I think it's really been powerful for me to watch that happen. I honestly just feel like I'm part of the process. And last but not least, like I mentioned earlier, I'm working with a group of advocates from California to create a OER toolkit that will be used by other campuses, hopefully, to brand and spread OER awareness on their campus. We're going to publish that sometime in late December. And last but not least, I and my two OER colleagues at College of the Canyons who design these materials, we are currently graduate students, and we're starting to realize as we work that we will be students for the rest of our lives. And that's kind of the mindset we hope to bring to open education.
Thank you, Trudi. So if all of us are going to be students for the rest of our lives, now it's maybe the time to go forward and move to the vision for the future. And what about you, Robert? What is your vision on that?
Well, I think after that very inspiring stuff by you, Trudi, maybe it's a bit tough act to follow there. But I mean, when I think about also the kind of stuff that we shared, and we talked a lot about this together, I think there's some common denominators, of course. It's about access, about transparency, but I mean, we're all students. To me, it's a lot about empowerment, really. And we've had this before, like actually this morning, we heard about how the relationship between education or the university and society is evolving and changing, becoming more complex. And I think in this day and age, we need, more than ever, we need active citizens. And if we want active citizens, we need to have active students in our education system. And so what I take from working with you and thinking about this really is an encouragement that there is an open future possible in which everybody can contribute and everybody has a place to shape this, and not just the education, but then society at large.
So maybe we can think about some practical roles that students could cover, something like being co-creators of content, which means working on homeworks to support professors in designing texts, supporting them in preparing examinations also, or to improve them, share their already done exercises with others through licenses so that they could be reused for different activities instead of getting lost in time and wasted in a way, you know. Or also we can think about students as a licensed tutor, let's say, because you are all smart, and if you get to know licenses, you are the best advocate possible to work with the professors and teaching staff in order to support them, understanding them better, and also keeping it simple, you know. It's not such a big deal to work with licenses. You can do it, and it could be good coming from students also. Or also students could be good peer teachers, as you already are doing, you know, extending this practice as something that you can start working on consciously, not because it comes up to you as a chance, because you encounter such some Hermione project, or you are lucky because you have friends who already work with licenses, you know. It could be really worth it, because students could really give a great contribution to the building of this big network. Yeah. Some of the projects already, I mean, this conference is full of projects that are already talking about the role of students, and some of you are already involving them largely, which is something that I hope we could do also in the future. But it's something that could be really improved.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and it's important to not just have like the dream, the vision, the grand thing, which is also important. I think we need that, but at the same time to think of what are the concrete like steps, and then simple steps that you can take, because like from my own experience, I think, or everybody has had probably this experience at some point, that you need to find a way into something, like, and it always helps that the initial threshold is not too high. It's not too hard to become involved. So as you say, like there's so many simple steps where students can start to become involved if, you know, they are being trusted to do so. And then, of course, they can build on that and become more and more involved. So in the ideal world, this is, of course, like an open spectrum, so that you can, at the end, you can design entire curricula and everything together with the faculty and become really empowered this way. So I think the small steps is really the one important thing, and the other important thing I think is the role models. And when you had this fantastic quote about you can't be what you can't see, this is one of the reasons why we think our project is working so well, and it shows in the evaluation that we have, is because the students see another student, a peer, being this teacher and being able to do this stuff. They become inspired themselves, and we've just had like an application for the next year where somebody actually wrote this. So I was at the first thing you did, and I was at the second thing, and now I feel ready to do it myself. So it's working, and I think this goes for all kinds of student involvement. If you see somebody, then you feel who's a peer, then you feel empowered to do it yourself, maybe.
Okay, so maybe before we go, we leave some time for the questions. We can share with you why we chose these kind of images for our keynote, because actually there's a reason. We, as you can see, there is a painter here, and he's preparing a wall. All the pictures we shared with you today through this presentation are done by this painter, this artist, whose name is Afran. Actually, he works very close to here because he works in Lecco, which is 50 kilometers north from Milan. And we came up with these images by chance, searching from Pixabay. And Actually, you will find the explanation in the presentation later on. But what we did was to choose a mural first because we wanted to have something coming up in the open. And the wall, in this way, is seen just as a support, not as a boundary. You know, so that's the meaning we wanted to have in our presentation, and that's why we chose those images. And Afran, we contacted him, actually, because we had the chance to get in touch with him. He was very proud of being with us on the stage. But also, even if he is an artist, he wanted to know everything about open culture, and he is willing to join us in the future in order to produce a piece of art to be shared in the open. So the word is spreading. I mean, we just have to continue working and advocating, I think. Okay.
Well, I'd like to add a word about how we worked to prepare this keynote. First of all, there were no bosses, even though it's officially Paola's keynote. And I'd really like to thank her for inviting us here and giving us a chance to be here. Then we try to always use open source software for our work. I insisted on that, but they all agreed. We used an open source software to do our conference calls. We ended up using Google Docs for our notes. We had to, because it just works so well. But what I'm really grateful for, I'm really happy we did, is even though we are 4 people with completely different backgrounds from opposite sides of the world, poor Trudi had to wake up very early to participate in our calls. But we managed to get together and to put our thoughts and ideas together to share something with you. And I hope we managed to really communicate our love for open in general.
And just really briefly to go off of what Giulia said, I feel extremely empowered and privileged to be on the stage with these people. I've gotten to know them over the past couple of months, and it really reminds me that there's people literally, I mean, this isn't called OE Global for nothing. There's really people all over the world that are doing this, and this is a tangible reminder for me. And that's really the goal that we have in doing this for the keynote, is that we want all of you to feel personally and individually empowered, because it is that individual empowerment practiced on a daily level that is going to lead to greater open advocacy, policies, and acceptance. So thank you very much for being here and taking the time and sharing your time with us.
Now, the one thing that I would maybe add is that, of course, it takes more time if you work on this like with 4 people, and that not just everybody says their little thing, but you try to communicate like a common message. It took more time, but it was worth all the time it took, because I think, first of all, we got to know each other in the process, and then I think it just turns into a whole different kind of thing and a different kind of message that we can communicate, hopefully, to you today.
Well, now we have to ask one last thing of you. Remember the papers that you were given at the beginning? We asked you to write your visions of the future on them. And now, if you're as open to sharing as we hope you are, we ask you to give them back to us as you leave the room, and they will be put on a poster upstairs for everyone to see and maybe draw inspiration from.
And just one last thing. At the beginning, we skipped this part. There is a quotation here from Offer. As you can see, it's 1973, so it's nothing really new, actually, you know. But the thing is that if we want to be learners for the rest of our lives, and we don't want to consider ourselves learned, we have to give away something in a way, you know, which means in order to make room for something new, in a way we have to unlearn something and relearn, okay, from scratch. And to do this properly, I strongly believe that the contribution from students could be really worth it and really powerful. So thank you all for your time. And if there is any question, we have 5 minutes maybe, so we can manage with some of them. Is there any question Okay, I can give you the microphone.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was great to listen to your practices and experiences. Great choice. Glasses are more important than textbook. Also, good to know that now there is the very first CC BY MOOC available. If you have one wish from your university, what would it be?
Good.
Whoever wants to start is welcome.
Is this being recorded?
Yes. Actually, yes.
Hopefully.
No, seriously, I would say trust the students is the key thing for me, because it will pay off. This probably applies to my university just as much as to most other higher education institutions, that there's a lot of room still for more trust to be put into students and giving them more of a say, over what they want to learn, why they want to learn it, and how they want to learn it, and maybe even how they want to teach their peers, as in our case.
Well, for me, it would be encourage sharing because it benefits everyone. I've had professors who copyright their exams and you can't share them, and I think that makes no sense. I mean, I completely understand being proud of one's work, but I think that sharing it with other people and it's giving it another use and augmenting the value of your work.
I would just have to agree with Robert. Just trust the students. It's shocked me the talented people that are in every nook and cranny of our school at College of the Canyons. It blows me away. Every time I talk to a student, not only are they interested in the idea of open, there's something about it. It's altruistic. It makes them feel like they're a part of something bigger, and they are, and we all are. And they're just brilliant. I mean, I constantly talk to students almost on a daily basis where I'm like, they should have my job. They should do this. So yeah, trust the students.
I'm facilitating this here. I wasn't told that I have to, but here we are. Thank you for this. Where's Igor? Okay, so any more questions? Interesting what came up here about trust, and I think the important factor is to trust students. I'm coming. Yes, what about staff? Okay, please introduce yourself.
Thank you. Matilde Fontanini, University La Sapienza. Like somebody said last night, a late PhD student. So I'm on both sides. Since I'm a librarian, forgive me about it, but something you said about sharing makes me feel, since I worked inside university for many years, what I feel is, I don't know how you feel about it, there's a kind of problem in communication, maybe. So there are a lot of resources already working on certain topics, and they don't get together. So to make an example, Julia was speaking earlier about sharing resources, creating a platform. What I notice is even open access publications are on open repositories, and you have to go and look into every single open repository. So why don't we just make an effort and involve large databases that are already there? So archive worked, okay? It changed the world. If we have open access, we owe it somehow to the stubbornness of somebody who created a globally shared resource. So why don't we just skip on the train of, large catalogs, which are already there, and showcases for everyone to see?
Well, I completely agree with you. I think the problem is not just that people don't share, but those who do not advertise enough the work they've done. And so you end up having to look for material in different platforms and wasting a lot of time. But I personally think that the only one who can do that is the university, because it's big enough to get everyone together and share the work that everyone is doing inside and outside the university.
I maybe add one thing about sharing and maybe more generally also about like open technology and so on. I think there's a massive opportunity if like open databases or open software tools or whatever, if they are designed in a user-friendly way, because we live in a time where convenience is everything, and especially for students, especially students when they have like a lot of a workload to do, and maybe they're not yet at the level where they can like see how they can, you know, become involved themselves, and they're just trying to get by and you know, pass their exams and so on. If we want them to take part in these or use these tools, we have to make them as user-friendly as possible, and this has a lot to do with design, and I think there's a massive opportunity to make open tools much more user-friendly.
So if there are no more questions, I think that our time is finished. So thank you, everyone, and thank you, first of all, for your effort.
Okay, since everybody is still here, there's a coffee break now, and then we'll go off to different sessions. Okay, thank you. The conference committee has asked me badges. So if you need any help, find any of us, and we'll all send you to Igor. Like we